I've been fortunate. I think it's interesting. I don't know if you would agree, but in some of my, even in my lived experience, I've always sort of identified with mothers a lot because I think we of course seek out the things that we are lacking or missing. And I knew that I was missing that from a very, my mom passed when I was 7 years old. So
Mm,
majority of my life I didn't have one. And
yeah.
so I think that I have had that level of connection to, like, whether it was friends, mothers, things like that. And I think it's natural to want to gravitate to get that level of fulfillment from somewhere.
Hmm.
When I say the parenting side, and because I agree with you, I don't think it should be an either or. Because if your bio parents aren't a good example, and or because this is true too, if they don't want to be present,
Yeah.
you don't want to just be like, okay, well, I had to depend on them, and I guess I don't have anything. What I would say though, and this is just me as a parent talking, like trying to challenge those of us that maybe are parents and are not being present.
Hmm.
You may not realize the effect that you're having on your child by not
Hmm.
being there. And when I say present, I don't just mean physically.
Yeah.
I'm really talking about emotionally, because a lot of us may come from parents households that are physically present,
Yeah.
but again are emotionally unavailable. That to me is a big difference. You have to be willing to be
Sure.
vulnerable. You have to be willing to be expressive and to create the type of relationship that can stand the test of time. It to me is the
Yeah.
parent's responsibility to do that. But if you can get somebody in there to help somewhat fill the void, it's never going to fully fill the void, but to
Hmm.
help, right? Like I said, my aunts, my grandmother, like they
Yeah.
tried their best, and I'm forever appreciative to them. And I mean, it's better to get that from somewhere.
Yeah.
But if you could get it, ideally, if you could get it, even if the parents are not together, if they
Yeah.
would be present and work together to raise that young person or young children, depending on how many they have, I think that that would be a great service. And one of the points I made listening to the other gentleman in a previous episode was, to me, that's really the only significant difference outside of like income level that makes maybe black communities different compared to our white counterparts.
Mm,
Is a lot of them come from two-parent households, so
yeah.
there's an inherent level of stability,
Yeah.
not just financially, usually emotionally, because one person isn't trying to do two people's jobs
Right.
and also raise a child. And
Yeah.
as a from a parent perspective, again, I think about this myself. It's really hard to raise a child by yourself.
Yeah.
And even when you're trying your best, there is going to be things that are going to be deficient, because men, we are not women, and women, we are not men.
Yeah.
So we cannot fully embrace and embody the other person's duty. We can try,
Right.
right? But we're not going to be able to fully do that. And so I
Yeah.
think it's just understanding that connection and saying, you know what, even if I had an issue with this person, maybe again, personal in nature, let me find a way to put that to the side to make sure our son or our daughter, whoever, they are able to be raised in a more structured and balanced environment that we're both meeting their needs,
Hmm.
And then if you can get some additional mentors or
Yeah.
fatherly, motherly figures in your life, then of course, like, add it, that's assets to the community. It takes a village,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's beautiful. I
And
hope we will
absolutely,
support and encourage that.
I definitely agree with that, for sure. I think it is extremely, I think it is very ideal uh, for the actual parents to provide that experience to the child. I mean, essentially, and that's, where I always have the opinion that I think that a lot of times when people have children, they don't fully understand the responsibility of what it means. Like you're bringing a freaking human being into this world
Yes, sir.
who you are responsible for nurturing and protecting and covering and cultivating as they go through life and experience what the truth of society in this country is like, right? Let alone as just a human being in general, but as a human being of color, okay?
Yes. Yes.
In this country, and the things that are forever changing when it comes to our demographic. Like that is a huge responsibility. And I don't think that everybody takes that into account when they're having children. I personally don't believe that my parents took that into account when they had children. If they did, I think they would have been a little bit more responsible, right? They would have been a little bit more caring or just careful. But I truly don't think that I think that there's a glorification that comes from having children, and then it's like, oh, the baby is here and the baby is so cute and the baby is so beautiful and we're holding the baby and we're feeding the baby baby milk, but at some point in time or another, that baby has to turn 1. Okay.
Yes.
And their spatial intelligence develops and they start to understand what's happening around them. So then that 1 year old turns into a 5 year old who can now use words and they're
Hmm.
mimicking everything that you're saying and they're copying everything that you're saying because they don't know any better. They just know that they're hearing you say words and they just learn that they know how to say words. And so they're copying what you're saying, right?
Correct.
And then you have this 5 year old who eventually turns into an adolescent. And these in this life that's going on around them, if they don't have morals, if they don't have values, if they don't have things that they are being rooted in, if they don't have a sense of identity and individuality, if they don't have a sense of security in who they are,
Hmm.
and a level of healthy self-esteem, the world is going to eat them up. And a lot of people are not parenting um, from these views. A lot of people are parenting more so to make sure that their child has one of the newest pairs of sneakers or has the newest game and has the best jewelry at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And or the best phone, and they're keeping up, but everybody else has an iPhone, so now my child has to have an iPhone. For
Right.
what? What did you instill in this child for them to understand that even if they don't have the iPhone, they still have value?